Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Konetsky. I'm the group publisher here at BPC. Welcome to the first event of our 2022 Project 515 series, which is being brought to you today by our presenting sponsor, Midwest One Bank, and our supporting sponsor, DLR Group. It's our goal to help you do business better, and you all are the reason that we do what we do, and this series is designed to do just that. Our Project 515 series of real estate and development focused virtual events are going to help us deep dive into three specific subsections of the industry: retail, housing, and office. Today, we're going to be talking about retail. And this series has a goal of illuminating both future challenges and trends throughout the year while amplifying discussions with the region's key stakeholders that are doing business in those sectors and, of course, the folks that are interacting with them. Coverage of the discussion today is going to appear both in written and video form. And it's going to be integrated across all of our platforms, including the weekly business record, our weekly commercial real estate e-newsletter, and businessrecord.com, and of course, our social platforms too. We've got a great panel lined up for you today to help take a little bit of a deep look into the future of retail, and both in 2022 and beyond. And we've got a lot to discuss today. Before we get going, though, do want to have one bit of housekeeping work for us today. Today's event is going to be in meeting style, meaning that you can see your fellow attendees. So we recommend not only that you are, of course, aware of that. You can go off camera if you'd like, that's fine. But we recommend that you use speaker view for today. Speaker view, you can find that in the top right corner of Zoom. You can toggle between gallery and speaker. We will be pinning the speakers onto the screen so that you'll be able to see who's there. That'll most replicate a panel experience. At this point, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors that are making Project 515 possible. New this year is presenting sponsor Midwest One Bank, which is being represented today by Dan Clute, Market President, and Randy Willard, the Retail Market Manager. At Midwest One Bank, community is at the heart of everything that they do, and since 1934, the bank has embraced taking care of their customers in order to help their customers and communities succeed. Today, we've got a brief video from Midwest One.
Hello and welcome to Retail Moving Forward in Uncertain Times, the first Project 515 series event. I'm Dan Clute, Market President for Midwest One Bank here in Central Iowa.
And I'm Randy Willard, the Retail Market Manager here in the Des Moines Metro. We are honored to be a part of this important conversation as we learn how to better serve our customers here in the Des Moines Metro.
Our goal as a community bank is to nurture and support our customers and those who should be, our community.
Like many businesses, the pandemic changed the way we worked through our mission, and we shifted our strategy to meet constantly changing demand.
We're excited to take a deeper dive into the success stories and challenges from our local retailers and learn along with you. On behalf of everyone here at Midwest One Bank, thank you for having us and please enjoy the event.
Thanks again to Midwest One for your sponsorship today and helping power Project 515. Our supporting sponsor this year is DLR Group, who is a returning sponsor from our inaugural year last year in 2021. DLR is a leading integrated design firm located in Des Moines with offices around the globe and more than 1,000 design professionals. Their promise is to elevate the human experience through design, and I'm pleased to welcome Austin Herndon, the project manager and senior associate with DLR. Austin, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. DLR Group is pleased to again be a sponsor of Project 515. As an integrated design firm, we at DLR Group have established ourselves as a leader in design across retail, mixed use, and workplace projects. We are uniquely situated as a resource for our clients as we have the ability to draw from our pool of experts across DLR Group's 30 offices and 1,200 employee owners. Customers are back in stores and retailers are proceeding with projects that had previously been put on hold. Both great signs that consumer confidence is back. Prior to the pandemic, we at DLR Group were already seeing retail trend towards the experiential. We have found that this trend has only compounded both regionally and internationally, while now being cognizant of adaptability, labor shortages, and rising supply chain costs. Recently, these adapting customer experiences have ranged from the smaller tenant buildouts, like a local butchery sourcing regionally raised meats. Shout out to Old Station Crafts Meats in Waukee, if you haven't been yet, to regional bank chains evaluating the decline of the drive-through and the emergence of the interactive teller machines, to the award-winning Sport Authority project in Dubai, where retail stores focus around a central multi-use arena while also housing a variety of activities, including rock climbing, a trampoline park, and a wellness center. One client DLR Group has been honored to partner with since its inception is the Mall of America. Originally envisioned as a retail center with market-leading amenities, over the past 30 years, DLR Group has helped the Mall of America to adapt and reimagine itself to remain relevant as an entertainment destination. This forward-thinking approach benefits not only the retail center itself, but it helps drive adjacent development, which is evident in the multiple hotel projects DLR Group has completed adjacent to the Mall of America, the 2 more that are just kicking off, and the new DLR Group designed indoor water park set to open in 2024. I look forward to learning from these other local experts on what else they're seeing on their day-to-day so that we can add even more value to our national and local clients. Thank you again.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it. And thank you again for your sponsorship this year. All right, let's get this thing going. Here's how it's going to work today. In a moment, I'm going to introduce our panelists, and we're going to get things off and rolling with today's discussion. On the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a couple ways that you can interact with us. You can do so through the chat function. If you have a question for the panelists, that's going to be a great spot today for you to go ahead and do that. We might not be able to get to everybody's questions, but your questions can help guide us and help us ultimately shift where the conversation is going. So we'd love to have you do that throughout the course of the conversation today. The topic today, of course, consumer shopping habits were changed so dramatically at the start of the pandemic in March 2020. That really just accelerated a lot of the trends, of course, that were already underway prior to the pandemic. The economic turmoil caused by the health crisis really helped quicken the move to buying everything from groceries to clothes and electronic gadgets online. And now customers are returning to shopping in person, and retailers and those in service-related industries are rethinking how their brick and mortar shops should be a part of this environment. In today's event, we've assembled a great group of leaders from a wide variety of retail backgrounds to help us see what the future holds. They've got expertise in retail real estate, restaurants, service-related businesses, and in the needs of large and small retailers. With us today, we have Tyler Dingel. He's the Senior Vice President for Hubbell Commercial, CBRE Hubbell Commercial. Steve Frevert, the Executive Director of the Historic Valley Junction Foundation. Alex Hall, the owner and operator of St. Kilda Restaurants. Aaron Hyde, the Vice President and Associate Advisor at JLL Des Moines. And Cassie Sampson, the owner and operator of East Village Spa. Now, we've only got an hour to cover a lot of ground today, and we'll barely be able to scratch the surface. So let's get this started. And here to kick things off is our very talented and hardworking commercial real estate reporter, senior staff writer, Kathy Bolton. Kathy's going to be leading the discussion today. I'll chime in from time to time with maybe a follow-up question or two, but Kathy's really going to be driving things. Kathy, go ahead and take it away. And Kathy, you are on mute right now.
All right, tried that again. Sorry about that. So thank you, and thanks panelists for your time today. I'd like to start with a broad question for each of you. So we're coming out of the pandemic. What lessons did retailers learn during the pandemic that are still in use today? And Steve, I'll let you kick it off.
You know, I think some of the old-fashioned things like being responsive to your customers is really paid off. We've seen that here in Valley Junction. I'm glad to say retail has been super strong even through the pandemic. I think it really helped people refocus on local. At the same time as people were, like you said, doing more stuff online and maybe venturing into grocery shopping or apparel shopping online, things they might not have done before. Still, I think the lack of human connection over about a year and a half really drove people back into the shops. We saw that certainly last year. We had businesses down here for 20, 30 years that had record years last year. So our local retail sector has been very strong, but people really needed to differentiate themselves from the online shopping experience.
Thanks, Steve. Cassie?
Sure. First, thanks for having me, and thank you, sponsors. This has forced a lot of creativity, and at East Village Spa, we're a high-touch business. I'm a massage therapist, so high-touch professional in our industry was really hit hard because people were staying away from each other. And to echo what Steve said, now people are wanting what we have to offer, more than ever before, and we have less providers than ever before industry-wide. We lost about 20% of our service providers across the spa industry due to COVID. It's a primarily female driven industry, and we all know women were hit hardest. So during COVID, one interesting innovation in our profession was touchless or services that didn't require skilled providers. And that was kind of an innovation out of necessity because people didn't want to be in close proximity with providers. So things like meditation rooms, like a dry float tables, things like that. But now with the shortage in skilled service providers available for the huge demand, some of these interesting technologies are still around and actually becoming more prevalent because it's one way to meet the demand. And if you asked me in 2019, if I would ever consider something like a table that provides a weightless type experience and some massage without a provider, I would have said absolutely not. But I now have one being shipped from Italy. So yeah, it's really changed our thinking.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Cassie. Alex, how about you?
I get the biggest thing for us is just trying to controlling cost. You know, the cost is not only high, it just fluctuates so dramatically, and that's something that happened through COVID, and something that continued to happen. So what we're trying to do now and what we've done through COVID is just trying to forecast what next week's going to be like and how we're going to control the cost. You know, we used to have very consistent businesses where we would do relative the same money each week and then cyclical throughout the year. And now it's very spasmodic and it's changing a lot. You know, we have issues now where public holidays used to be very busy for us because people couldn't go away. Now people are able to go away. So we've lost some revenue on our public holidays. And then it's just the restaurant business at the moment is extremely difficult we have shortage of labor, we have high cost of product. And we also have a lot of issues with just heating and cooling the restaurants has gone up dramatically. So, you know, when you're in an industry that lucky to make 10%, when your labor cost has gone up 15%, you know, it's pretty quick to lose money. So, you know, it's a tough game for us at the moment.
Okay, well, thank you. Tyler.
Kathy, thank you for having me on. We saw a lot of changes, obviously, through the pandemic, but I think one thing that retailers really focused on, what they derive from that, is there was a huge increase in what they call m-commerce or mobile commerce, which is essentially retail shopping from your phone or your iPad or any type of mobile device. And why that was important is it opened up access to a new set of data analytics for these retailers to know exactly who their customer was, where they were buying the products at, where they were located physically, and really how they were utilizing those products. And so that amount of data was extremely important. It allowed them to focus on specialization of their marketing efforts. So I think all of us can agree, whether we've thought it in our mind or we thought our phone was listening to us, we'd go on and look for a product online, and all of a sudden you'd see ads for that product every website that you would open up. One interesting stat I found is in 2021, the average American spent 4.75 hours per day on their phone. So if you can imagine the amount of ads that can be targeted at their specific demographic, their specific consumer, it allows them to lower their marketing cost and become much more efficient with their sales. So that's been a huge impact on the national scene. I think locally, what we've seen is some of our local retailers that had maybe shied away from doing as much online or as much interactive online, really were forced to adapt that with online ordering, curbside pickup, third-party delivery systems. Rather than having 2 or 3 delivery drivers on their payroll, they're able to leverage these third-party delivery systems. So again, just adapting and changing and figuring out how to be most efficient with their business.
Okay, thanks. Aaron?
Yeah, I'll say lessons we've seen were, everyone learned that, hey, you had to be nimble and proactive. And to sort of piggyback on what Tyler said, but also something that Cassie touched on, is those retailers that got in front of it and adopted the technology to have, the buy online, pickup in stores, the curbside pickup, the touchless pickup, so that everyone felt good about, hey, I can go shopping, pick up my items without having to interact and feel safe. Those guys, those retailers really won. A stat on that is Target, for example. All those services are called same-day services, and Target has announced they're investing $5 billion into same-day services. That's how profitable this has been for these big retailers.
Okay, good start here. So Aaron and Tyler, you both were in Las Vegas at a big retail convention. Why don't you share with us a couple of your top 2 takeaways from that convention? Aaron, do you want to start?
Sure. I'll say out of the gate, the tone is positive. This is the first time we've had this in 3 years, and there's about 23,000 people that showed up. So there's a positive convention. I'd say if I had to name 2 takeaways, one, I'd say, the whole narrative of store closures is behind us now. For the longest time, we heard all these national guys are closing. That narrative is behind us. And now we're looking forward to, hey, we need to open brick and mortar stores because we need to have that customer engagement, that customer experience, but also to service the omni-channel systems that these retailers have in place. The second thing we heard was to go into the supply chain. It is the whole, we're trying to open up X number of stores, but we don't know when we're going to get the stores open because we don't know how long it's going to take to get our HVAC units or all the product that we need to open up our stores. So the 2 takeaways: people are opening stores and they just don't know when they can get them open.
Tyler.
Yeah, I would agree with Aaron that the overall vibe was very positive. It was interesting, back in the heyday, if you look back 5 years ago, we were north of 40,000 people at that convention, pushing 50,000. Now it was about half that number, and I think that's part of that is, people are creatures of habit, and it's, I go to ICSC every year, and it's just on the calendar, and then you take a couple of years off, and it kind of breaks that habit. And I think a lot of folks decided they could stay home and be just as efficient, but you can't beat that in-person touch that you get there, the ability to try and put some of those deals together and faces with names of people that you're working with. But I'd say from a takeaway standpoint, I think the biggest issue we're having right now is the gap between what some of these retailers are able to pay and what they're used to paying, and what the cost of new construction has done to the market. We had, over the past 10 years, we've seen a 44% increase in retail sales, which is huge. I mean, retailers are doing well. The sales are there. At the same time, we saw a 4% increase in amount of retail space available. So the space available has really just not kept up. And you can look around our market as well and see that we haven't had a lot of new retail developments of size. You have some smaller strip centers and things, but these new larger retail developments have not happened. And one of the biggest hurdles is getting these tenants to understand that, hey, if you want to be a new store in this new market, the cost is going to be quite a bit more than what you're used to paying in a product that was 60% of the cost 5 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see how we navigate that gap going forward. But there's no doubt there is a lack of that Class A product for some of these large retailers, and so I think we'll get there, but it's going to take some time.
So Tyler and Aaron, what sort of interest did you see from retailers in coming to the Des Moines market?
There's a lot of interest in coming to our market. Time and time again, and I'm guessing Tyler sees the same thing, is we'll have people jump in the car with us, they'll fly to the market, they'll say, hey, we're going to open up 5 stores, and then it comes to the market and leave, and maybe we had one spot identified just because the market's so tight. I mean, that's our biggest challenge, that we don't have these large mega centers going up right now in the marketplace, and we don't have a lot of box users that create outlot pads for more of the concepts that come to the market. So without having those components, it's just hard to pin down sites.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I think we're going to see that start to change. Again, if we can overcome that hurdle of that construction cost, but there's areas of our market that are really on the brink of seeing some major development. If you look out in Waukee and along Alice's Road and Hickman there, we've got some areas that are really primed to land some of these large big box developments, which will lead to additional inline type retail and pad sites. You know, you look up at Ankeny and the Costco deal that was just landed, that piece is under construction. That's drawing a lot of attention from some of these national groups, and even an area like Altoona has seen some of that. So I think it's coming, and I think it will be here before we know it. And I think the challenge is people have been hoping for it for the past 5 years, and we just haven't had the ability to support it. But I think we're close.
Okay, great. So Alex, in the past 6 months, you opened 2 new restaurants, both of them in Clive. Talk about some of the challenges you ran into opening these restaurants on the heels of a pandemic.
The biggest issue we had was length of construction and cost of construction. You know, I'm experienced at opening restaurants. You know, I've done 5 in New York and probably 5 more here. And we have a very good team of people we work with. We use Hildreth for our construction. We have all our same subs. We have a whole team of people that we can bang a store open generally in 6 months. You know, I do a good job of negotiating TI, good TI. I do a good job of getting good rent free because I sign 10-year leases. So, you know, I get myself into a good situation where I should be able to get the store open and trading for at least 2 to 3 months without having to pay any rent. And we just ran into problem after problem after problem. You know, it wasn't Hildreth's fault. It was, you know, we had a lot of times where these smaller contractors, Wyckoff or SJM, you know, they would have employees go down with COVID, you know, so they had a lack of labor. So not only did we have issues with extremely high, expensive cost of materials, we spend a lot of money. We're proud of what we spend on our stores and to make them look as nice as they do. A lot of our furniture comes from overseas. So that was just huge lead times. I mean, the pizza restaurant took 12 months to build, which was disappointing. And I nag and harass and there every single day and push. But you know, we had a situation where the hood was delivered. We waited longer than we should have for the hood, and the guy picks the hood up on the forklift and drops it in the car park. Right, so we'd already waited this enormous amount of time. And then he dropped the bloody hood, and then we had to wait again, get back at the end of the queue, and then had to wait for this hood. Now the hood was like holding everything else up. So it was the biggest problem was the length of time that it took to get the shops open, and I would assume we estimated between 25 to 35% more I spent than what I have. So I incur more debt, more pressure on the business. And, you know, it just makes it tighter.
Well, that's discouraging, but we're glad to see you've opened these 2 new restaurants.
Yes, I think it'll break at some point. I think just through COVID, these suppliers just didn't have labor. You know, everyone kept on getting COVID, and it was just one guy with another guy and another guy, and it just made it very difficult for them.
And Alex, were you able to find people to work at your new restaurants?
We had enough staff throughout, so we have about 150 employees now. We were able to get the stores open. We kind of staggered them. We did the pizza one first and dragged people over. I'm working 5 days a week in the restaurants at the moment. We were able to get staff then, but it's virtually impossible now. We're very good front of house. You know, the kids have come back from college, and we get a lot of summertime workers. But the chefs are non-existent. They're not to be seen. You know, we could hire 10 chefs now, and we have the problem where they come and have an interview. They'll come and do the trial. We offer them the job, and they just don't turn up. You know, we hired 3 guys last week, and all 3 of them just didn't turn up on the opening day. So, you know, we have a situation now where we're just kind of stressing out our guys and trying to make them work more, and just pleading with anyone that wants to try and work in the kitchen, you know, and it is a real problem that I don't foresee going away anytime soon, because if anything, it's getting worse. And what's happening now is other restaurateurs that maybe don't understand costings as well as I do start paying too much for labor because they're trying to get the labor. To get the labor, they overpay, and just puts crunches labor costs. So we're all kind of picking over scraps at the moment for these employees and just trying to keep the ones we have very happy.
Well, anybody out there, if you know of some chefs, hook them up with Alex.
Please. Nice signing bonuses, all right?
So Cassie, you recently announced that your business is moving. You're staying in the East Village, but so talk about your new location a little bit, but also talk about sort of the temperature of East Village business owners right now. Is foot
Yeah.
traffic returning?
Yeah, well, and you guys are making me sweat here a little bit with the build out. Yeah, it's very anxiety inducing to be building right now. That I can say for sure. So in the beginning of the pandemic, we shut down, and then there was a mandatory shutdown. So we were closed, my business, for 4 months entirely in 2020. But one of my biggest anxieties was that if people don't go back to work downtown, they're not going to come down to the East Village. And I'm seeing Steve nod his head too, that it wasn't the case. People who are loyal to the East Village returned as soon as they felt safe. And even before, with those of us who were creative with online shopping and other options, people came back. And we have higher demand than ever before. So I pulled some of my colleagues in the East Village to see what they were experiencing in anticipation of this. And it's busy. If I run out to grab a coffee at Scenic Route on a nice day like this, there's a lot of traffic on the sidewalks. To Alex's point, the restaurants are busy. Some of the changes that we're noticing, we're lucky we've been established a long time. So, we've always been about 85 to 90% booked on a weekday. Saturday is always booked with a wait list, but now we are at capacity just about every day of the week. We have a wait list of 8 to 10 every day of the week, plus a longer wait list for Saturdays, just because the demand is so high. And we are about fully staffed. It's just a matter of, we still have illnesses. We still have COVID taking out employees for 10 days at a time. We're in close contact professions. So that's a challenge. That's a challenge in the East Village that I see. You'll see occasionally a sign up that a business is closed early due to lack of staffing. But we're all noticing that some of our busier days are shifting. So weekends are still busy, but I think with people having work from home or partial work from home, they're able to sneak in a shopping trip on a Tuesday afternoon or come to the spa on a Thursday at 3 o'clock and then go back home and work later to make up for it. So that's a change we're seeing. But yeah, the people who love the village and they're coming back.
Good. So Steve, lots going on down in Valley Junction. We've got some new buildings going up and more residential spaces being added. So give us some highlights and sort of what the temperature of business owners is down there.
Sure. I think the rate of change here has taken a lot of people, both business owners and residents, a little bit by surprise. In the last 2 years, we've seen a number of mixed use buildings go up. The location where Google Fiber is, right next to Alex, the St. Kilda Collective. They moved in just several months ago. And I think there's 12 or 16 new apartments upstairs there, all full with a wait list. First National Bank at the other corner is, as soon as they get their internet connectivity issues straightened out, they're going to be opening their new branch office at 5th and Elm. Next to that, 315 5th mixed-use building with 10 apartments. I believe they're all rented. A wealth management firm going in on the second floor. We're going to be getting our first bookstore on the first floor, and there's going to be a bar space behind that. And I think there's still about 4,400 square feet of space available in that building. And then just this morning, I was across the street at 304 5th Street, another mixed-use building. I believe there's a restaurant tenant signed on there, and with 10 new apartments upstairs. And then down the street the other way at 111, another new restaurant going in with a retail space right at the corner of Railroad Place and 5th Street. So lots of activity. The fact that the City of West Des Moines Master Plan Steering Committee has done a lot of work and put forth design guidelines that really are going to guide the appearance of the buildings that are being put up, as well as preserving some of the historic character we have. I think that's really crucial. The demand is here. We're seeing I know of at least 2, maybe up to 3 or 4 restaurants that are confirmed or in the works. So I think it's going to be really important. Again, there's that differentiation. We're going to be losing the longest yard here within the next couple months as that building undergoes really very much needed rehab, interior and exterior. But whatever pops up needs to not just be another beer and pizza joint.
So Steve, one of our viewers here is asking how retailers, non-restaurants are feeling about the next 12 to 18 months. Sales increasing, slowing?
I think it's been a little bit slow this spring, and I think the weather had a lot to do with that. It's been really cool, really wet, really windy. And so as walkable an area as we are, it's a little less walkable when it's not nice weather out. And I think we finally turned the corner on that. And so, you know, somebody else mentioned the shift in busy days. I think Cassie did. We've seen that too. A number of our retailers and restaurants are closed on Mondays, but I still see lots of people out walking on those days. You know, we have some businesses that are open Tuesday through Saturday or Wednesday through Sunday, that kind of thing. And I think they need to start, as staffing is available, to stretch out a little bit because the street traffic is there, and they're missing out if they're not taking advantage of it. But overall, I would say after last year being such a great year for retail and restaurants down here, I'm hearing the restaurant traffic is still really strong. So I think that's going to continue. There's a lot of confidence in that.
Okay, good. Thank you. So let's switch gears a little bit. Aaron, can you share some information about retail occupancy rates? Where were they a couple years ago and where are they now? And if you can talk about some specific areas, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I guess to start at a national level, pre-pandemic, we were at about 4.5% for a retail vacancy rate. In the middle of the pandemic, it got up to about 4.9%. And then today we're resting right about 4.6% on that. In Des Moines, the Des Moines Metro as a whole, pre-pandemic, we're about 3.5%, got up to about 4.6%. And today we're resting right around 3.1%. You know, what's interesting about these occupancy rates is, or vacancy rates is, you know, we had all these retailers, or especially restaurants, I should say, who came to us and said, okay, you know, we thought all these restaurants were going to go out. And so they're sort of waiting on the sidelines. And we just didn't see the turnover that we did in our marketplace. You know, we're very fortunate. We have a lot of strong operators and a very supportive group here.
Was that a little bit different from other markets, perhaps, just out of curiosity?
You know, the large markets, I think we were more open than a lot of the other markets. And I think we have a lot of forward-thinking retailers and restaurants here, which is, you know, I'm not saying it was easy, but I think they were able to figure it out, put a game plan in place to fight through it. Where, you know, I think we've all heard about the horror stories of markets like New York and LA, where a lot of these guys, you know, their hands were just tied and they really struggled through the pandemic. Just some other quick stats, you know, Jordan Creek, that trade area as a whole, you know, our numbers show that is low 1% pre-pandemic and never really broke out of that. And right now, the only reason the vacancy is maybe a slightly higher is because there's actually some space that is coming online now. There's a developer who's going to build about 70,000 feet in front of Shields on EP True. DRA is launching their tower project at 60th and Stagecoach. And I also know that her development has launched another retail center at their Mills Crossing project. So I believe that's what has given that little uptick in vacancy. Outside of that, if we look at, you know, for example, Valley Junction, the number show is about 2%, 2 to 3% before pandemic, and a number rose to 6%, but I think it's more so because of the buildings that were coming online, and they've had just this great resurgence of, you know, development in that trade area. And I show the numbers today are just, they're trending down fast in that area in a positive way.
Okay, great. Tyler, talk a little bit about leasing rates and again, an overview and then specific area of the metro.
Yeah, again, I think, leasing rates are really reflective of cost in the market today. And if you go to an existing building that has some age to it and a much lower basis level, they can get away with a much lower rental rate. But I think you're going to continue to see upward pressure on rates, and we're going to see rates that a lot of retailers, especially locally, will struggle to try and make sense of. If you're going to build a new strip center on a decent piece of ground, you're going to need to be high 20s into the 30s, triple net, just to make your cost of construction and things like that nature make sense. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a challenge, but again, there's pent up demand, and a lot of these groups, Aaron mentioned this earlier, is we get a lot of these groups that are franchise groups, and a lot of that retail is driven by those groups, and they'll sign an agreement where they have to open 5 stores in Des Moines, and so that demand that's been pent up is going to continue to push some new construction, and it's going to push rents higher, which it isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as we can sustain the sales to keep them profitable.
Tyler, you've mentioned a couple times now about some of the maybe perhaps pent up demand, and even when you were talking with folks looking to lease and the rates going up. So out of curiosity, do you think there are some opportunities out there for new build retail type stuff to be coming on market? Do you think that that's going to be a space where some developers might be looking at trying to do some new build, especially after the last few years with all the big box stuff coming off the market or going on the market, I should say, and a lot of the uncertainty? I'm just kind of curious if we're maybe entering a little bit of a new phase here.
Yeah, I think absolutely we are. We have seen, as you mentioned, over the past few years and this has certainly helped our vacancy numbers. A lot of these big box stores have been taken out and backfilled by non-traditional retail users. That's taken a lot of that, B and C class type of product off of the market and helped those vacancy rates. The construction that we've seen in the market has typically been a more neighborhood type center, something that might be 8,000 to 15, 20,000 square feet, multi-tenant. What we haven't seen is a power center or a national anchored big box type center in recent years. And I absolutely do think that's going to change. I mentioned earlier with Costco going up in Ankeny, I think you're going to see some larger anchors surround that deal. I think Waukee is primed. You've got Mike Pearson's got his development, Waukee Town Center, that they've got some great groups that they're pursuing. Richard Hurd has another development just on the other side of the street from him there. They're teed up and ready to go for that type of a larger type retailer. And then you've got the Live Nation anchored center just to the south off of I always go Alice's Road, but it's Grand Prairie Parkway. I guess I have to retrain myself, but yeah, I think that area is prime for growth, and I think the demographics will support it, and so I think that's an area where you're going to see some of that larger retail development happen.
Okay, great. So I want to switch gears a little bit. Last week, we learned that Valley West Mall's in foreclosure. What does that mean for that part of West Des Moines and the Des Moines area as a whole, and sort of what look into your crystal balls, or and sort of how could that area be redeveloped?
Yeah, I would say, that's something that's been on the horizon for a long time, and most of us in the industry knew that was coming. It wasn't really a surprise, and quite honestly, I think that's a good step for that project. Previous ownership, I think they had some good ideas and had a plan of what they wanted to do with that project. I think the challenge is, if you look at the value of that real estate versus the debt that they had on the real estate, they were not in a position to inject capital into a redevelopment into new projects. And in today's world, that you absolutely have to have capital to make those deals happen. And so that I would say there was always interest that Valley West is great real estate, will continue to be great real estate for years to come. It's just so well located. But I think this is a good step in really opening up opportunity for that to actually take some legs and redevelop. as far as a crystal ball, I think you're going to see that really kick off with a experiential type retail development, whether that be a Topgolf type of a user or a music venue type of a user. But I think that's going to be the catalyst that kicks off that development. And again, we're going to need a group to come in with some deep pockets and some capital to really make a major change there versus just making some minor adjustments or improvements here and there. I think it's right for a major overhaul. And again, there's capital out there to do that.
So you talk about the experiential, and anybody can jump in here. We've got 2 Topgolf like facilities proposed in the Des Moines area. We've got the Live Nation, and we've got what's going on at Merle Hay. What other types of experiential developments are out there that could be brought into Des Moines?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of groups that fit that profile that aren't just your Sweet Shots or your Topgolf. Obviously, those 2 groups have been looking at the market. But even a restaurant you can consider as an experiential type of a retail. If you look at or a brewery, somewhere where the consumers today are spending more of their money on experience versus just products. And that might include a dining experience where they're going to meet their friends beforehand. They might do a wine tasting or a walk through a brewery and understand some of that process, but making it an actual experience versus just a sit down, eat and head out. And I think part of that is being fueled a little bit by the pandemic, because people have been pent up and held up in their homes for so long. They're really wanting to get out, and you still have a good portion of the population that's working from home. And when you don't have that social interaction that you get even from the workday, you have to find it somewhere else. And so I think that's where you're seeing groups like even a group like Ricochet downtown. That's a great example. Now I'm blanking on the pickleball. Smash Park. Thank you. Smash Park is another great example. So those type of activities, spare time, movie theaters, anything that get people out and doing activity along with spending that dollar.
Aaron, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd say all those users Tyler mentioned, and it's just about bringing people together. Gastrotainment is one of the terms you hear, which is a good food and beverage concept mixed in with some form of entertainment. It's just about getting people back together. I mean, everyone's cooped up for so long, and I think a lot of people realize that, hey, I got to get out and just be with my loved ones. Even at ICSC, there's a lot of people that we have all worked with for the last 2 years we'd never met, and it's just everyone mentioned how good it was just to be face to face with people, shake hands, have a beer and just talk business. And I think that's the kind of use that you'll see kick this off. To piggyback on that too, though, I can see a housing component, apartments, something of that nature to play a role at that project as well.
Okay, Steve, is there a connect? How much is the Valley Junction area and Valley West Mall connected, and will this have any effect on Valley Junction?
I really don't think so. I think the retailers and the businesses that are looking to move to Valley Junction are really attracted to those specific, that character, the historic character, and also they're really small spaces. We have retail shops down here that are literally 12 feet wide, and so the kind of product that's going to be available with whatever Valley West transforms into is really going to be very different. So I see that as complementary, not competing.
Okay. Cassie or Alex, anything to add to this?
No, I don't know that, I think the East Village, very similar to Steve, the people who are attracted to the neighborhood are attracted to it because of the character. It's not similar.
Okay. So speaking of East Village, big piece of property is going to be coming on the market soon, if it isn't already. Life Serve Blood Center is going to be leaving the East Village. So Cassie and Alex and others talk about that's nearly a block. How can that block be redeveloped? Cassie?
Well, what I'd like to, I mean, what I'm always a champion for is retail and small retail. Whether it's mixed use, I mean, I assume it will be mixed use, and I love some really good ground floor retail. I think for the flow of the village, it's important. Locust, you've got some really long-standing retail businesses, and I think to keep shoppers moving along to have retail on the other side of the street as well is going to be crucial, instead of kind of blocking it off with more like business type offices, insurance companies, things like that. So I really hope that's an option. I hope there's some way that it's a little more affordable retail to get some of the unique businesses that kind of helped the East Village become what it is today.
Alex?
Yeah, I have a slightly different view of the East Village than Cassie. You know, the East Village is by far my least performing store. You know, we that store before COVID, we switched it from one brand to another brand through COVID. We're thinking that pizza would be better, and the store just really hasn't kicked off as well. We lost all our lunches. You know, we used to have a very good lunch business down there, and then we do good business at night times and the weekend. But you know, we have the lunchtime business. It's like there's not one car parked on that whole street, you know, especially in the wintertime down there. So we've struggled in the East Village. You know, we would like to see, obviously, I think that the bars do pretty well at nighttime there, but you know, we're not a bar type crowd. So, you know, the East Village needs to really have a look at what its identity is. You know, it's gone from when I moved here 5 years ago, you could have a little wander around, and it's really focused on I guess where your business is, Cassie, as opposed to where mine is kind of tucked away. You know, I think that the Valley Junction has done an excellent job of getting everyone together and working together as a team, and then the East Village doesn't seem to have quite as good a leadership as Valley Junction does. And we've tried to reach out a couple of times to people to get on boards, or what are you guys doing to help promote these businesses, and it somewhat falls on deaf ears. So you know, we would like to obviously see more retail. The problem is that the release rates are so high that only restaurants can go in. You know, a retail has trouble paying $30 a foot. So they put more restaurants in, and it dilutes dilutes the customer base as it is. So it's a tricky thing, you know, when I hear more development in the East Village with Tim doing some more things over here, and it makes me a little concerned as to how we're going to drive more traffic down there, especially in the winter time and early in the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays down there is crickets. So yeah, they need to think about which way they're going to go with that, and think about a good mix of customers. Don't just please put no more restaurants, don't just bars. We need retail, we need hair salons, we need some different things to drive traffic.
I'd love to respond to that too. So Alex, one difference is Valley Junction's lucky to have Steve. The East Village doesn't have, you know, an office. We don't have any employees. We're not, you know, like the avenues of Ingersoll and Grand. We have no, it's just volunteer-based organization. So that's a differentiating part of the village. And, you know, I've been down here since 2007, and we talk about leasing, and you did mention the high lease rates for retail. And so the businesses that came before Alex, you and me, you know, you've got Gong Fu, you've got Ray Gun when it was Smash, From Our Hands, Found Things, Eden, Ami, The Saddle, some restaurants like Olympic Flame. So they were visionaries in this neighborhood, right? And they made it cool. And this was the only neighborhood I wanted to open my first practice in. And the unfortunate irony is when a neighborhood gets really desirable in this way, because these quirky visionary businesses saw like a good opportunity where at the time, this is where they could afford to open, they did. And then it kind of drives up the rates. So because people want to be down here, they want to move down here, they want to bring their employees down here. And then it makes it harder to attract more businesses like the ones who were kind of a visionary. And I'm expanding. I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do that. I did look outside of the village. I'll admit that. obviously I've branded my business East Village Spa as a part of the neighborhood because the culture really fits with my culture, and I love the people who love the village. But if I were to do it over again, if I was just starting out, I don't think I could afford to start here. But when I came here, it was because of the really unique restaurants and retailers that were here before me. So I hope, like I said, I hope that there's a way to encourage more of this, but we don't have a staff person working, full-time or even part-time for our neighborhood. It came about because a lot of people really saw the potential.
No, I see. I had a similar
A lot of
situation
things
in
there
Valley
to-
Junction. When I was going to open the store in Valley Junction, people thought I was crazy. I mean, they said, "What? I mean, this is 3 years ago," and I saw potential in the neighborhood, and I think that we've been one of the catalysts, especially in Valley Junction, especially down the other end of the street, where no one when everyone thought I was nuts getting that old building and doing what we did to it. So, I think that when we have issues now down there because we have landlords that have multiple buildings down there and they're putting other restaurants in, and I fight with my landlords and say, "Oh, yeah, what are you doing to me here? You're putting competition directly across the street." It's difficult enough as it is. It's just all about what I want from developing these neighborhoods is a really good mix of businesses and a mix of tenants. Like the bookshop is a great thing to come to Valley Junction. I'm just so pleased that that's going in there. I think that the bank is a great thing that's going in. The bank is great. It's being redeveloped. We need some more services. We have a lot of people that go to the post office and then come to us and have a coffee. So, I think services are a thing that really drives traffic as well.
Well, I think we are just about at time here. And so I want to give the panelists a chance to give one final response here today and a final takeaway for the audience. And your question will be, what's one, if you put your crystal ball hat on here, look a little bit out into the future, give us one thing that you think might be a trend or something that we should be watching as it comes to retail. I'm going to give you a second to quickly think about that and just make sure our audience knows about a few things that are coming up. So if you enjoyed today's program and you really want to dive deeper, today is just the start. There's so many additional ways for you to connect with our team as it relates to real estate and development. Project 515, as we mentioned, was the first in our Project 515 series, and we've got 2 more scheduled yet here in 2022. On August 25th, we're going to be talking about office, and then December 1st, don't really want to start thinking about winter quite yet, but we will be talking about housing at that one as well. Registration for the office event is going to open up in late July, and you can register at businessrecord.com/events. On June 22nd, we'll host our second Fearless Focus virtual event. You can register there at fearlessbr.com. July 11th, we've got our Innovation Iowa unveiling that's going to be out at Corteva. That is now open today. Registration is required. You can do that at businessrecord.com/events. And on August 4th, we are going to be celebrating our Women of Influence that we announced last week. Corporate tables are available now, and general admission tickets are going to go on sale in July. If you're interested in leveraging the next 2 Project 515's events for your company's services or message, sponsorships are still available for the series. Please reach out my way at chriskonetsky@bpcdm.com. In April, Business Record members received the 6th edition of our annual real estate magazine. Kathy was integral in helping put that publication together. She worked really hard to make sure that that project has a ton of information in there. If you want to go deeper into real estate and development, you can check out the features for the magazine at businessrecord.com/AREM. And of course, if you want to stay plugged in each and every week, the best way to do that is through our Commercial Real Estate Weekly e-newsletter. You can sign up at businessrecord.com/sign up. All right, why don't we go ahead and we'll go around the horn here. Alex, why don't we start with you?
I think the customers are going to have to get used to price increases. I think that the restaurants, Des Moines is a small market, and people are very price sensitive, which I understand. But there's only so much that these restaurants can take with the high cost of food and labor, and the rent goes up every year as well. So I think that I think people in Des Moines are going to have to, if they want a quality product, they're going to have to realize that they're going to have to pay a little bit more for it. We just don't see any change in product. If anything, it's getting worse and worse each week. And the prices are going to have to go up, otherwise the business are going to close. I hate to be doom and gloom. I'm the serial optimist, an immigrant in this country, and it's been very good to me. But it's very tough in the restaurant industry at the moment. And I implore people to go out to restaurants, shop local. Don't go to big box stores. Chick-fil-A is great and all, but come to a local restaurant that's owned by a person, because a lot of restaurants did well through the government funding, but that's all run out, and then there's no more funding for restaurants. There's no more magic pot of money the government's giving out. And so now we've got to try and grind it out. We have actually seen a decrease in sales. We're down about 5 and 10% on the same time last year. I have some good friends at quite high up at Hyde. They have lower numbers. So when Hyde has lower numbers, it makes me a little concerned. So I implore everyone to go out to restaurants and get used to some high prices.
Well, I've had the chicken sandwich. It's pretty solid there, Alex. So I'll make sure to keep that in mind next time I have a hankering for that. Cassie, how about you?
I think what I'm waiting for is in professions like mine that lost a lot of employees, the corporate world lost a lot of employees too. And when I've spoken to some business classes and some trade school classes in my profession, I am looking around the room thinking these are the people who left corporate America, and they are going to be very soon entering the workforce in jobs like mine. They're going to be massage therapists, skincare providers, cosmetologists. They're going to be opening retail stores and following other passions, just like some people left our professions to, figure things out and maybe go the other way. So I'm waiting for that shift to come, but I was really excited to see that in some classes coming out of trade programs soon.
Great. Aaron.
Yeah, I believe we're going to keep seeing more and more experiential retail come online. And, everyone thinks of the Topgolfs of the world, but there's a lot more than that. You look at like Fabletics, for example, at Jordan Creek, sometimes online, and now they have these showroom concepts that you go in, there's just enough clothing that you can find a color or a size, but then you can order it and I'll have it shipped to your house, something of that nature. Or these immersion exhibits, the Van Gogh is the hot one right now. But that type of retail that's going to drive more people out and more people together. I think you're going to keep seeing retailers find more ways of doing that.
All right, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Alex said. I think a lot of my predictions, I guess I've touched on, but one thing that's interesting is in-store retail for the first time in a long time actually grew faster than online retail. But if you guys, when I say, if Des Moines wants to continue to see retail developments and see new stores and new ideas enter the market, we have got to get out and support our local retailers and our regional retail developments. Before you get online and click that shopping cart and have it sent to your front door, think about, is there somebody locally that has that same product? The more we can do that, the more we can support that and spend those dollars in our market, the better off our entire retail environment is going to be. The other thing I would say is it'll be interesting to see what happens with supply chain issues and fuel. I think you're seeing that across the board, and for the number of Amazon trucks and UPS trucks that we see out there delivering, that is going to trickle down to the consumer, the cost of getting those goods to the consumer. So that's something that I believe we absolutely need to get under control, is some of those supply chain issues and again, some of those delivery costs. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Aaron. We're glad you guys both made it back from Vegas. We were a little concerned about our panel today. So Steve, final thought today.
Well, thanks again for inviting me to speak. And I would say, kind of a combination of what others have said. Certainly the rising demand for physical space is going to continue putting pressure on rent. And I think we're going to see some of the more hobby type businesses, the ones that have limited hours, that are, single person staff. I think those are going to be kind of pushed out of the market. And at the same time, that creates some opportunities for people who have new ideas, for things that you can't necessarily get online, and being able to experience a retail environment that's inviting and it's attractive, it's still going to have meaning. And I think that's only going to increase as we see people shifting some of their shopping habits online. Some of the ones who aren't in it to win it are going to be pushed out.
Thanks, Steve, and thank you, Kathy, for putting together such a great panel today. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank, of course, everybody for attending. And as a reminder, we're making this series free and available for everybody thanks to the support of our sponsors, Midwest One and DLR Group. We too are a locally owned business, and we're working hard to navigate things just like everybody else. And so to help ensure that we can keep bringing programming like this, advertising and supporting our events through sponsorships is how we make that happen. So thank you to Midwest One and DLR Group for making what we do possible. If you have a need to reach out our way and you want to help support the series, please feel free to reach out my way. And of course, I want to make sure we give a big thank you to our panelists today. If you can in the chat, give them a big thank you. We really appreciate their time and energy helping us get a little bit more insight into what's in store for the future. We appreciate it very much to have all of you here today. My name again is Chris Konetsky. I'm the publisher for Business Record and DSM Magazine. If we can ever be of any help to help you and your business do business better, please feel free to reach out our way, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Make sure to get out there, enjoy some restaurants and retail here in the Des Moines area. Thank you, everybody.